Okay, this is going to be a very short video, I hope, on how to use the Shape Builder tool, which is the essential part of part 1 of assignment number 14. So off on my dual monitor here, I have a copy of that biohazard warning symbol, and I've also opened a layer. And what I did was I put in a couple of crosshairs here so that I've got kind of a center to things. This may help a little bit. I don't instruct you to do that necessarily in the video that I captured of the complete copy of the PowerPoint thing, but I think that it might be beneficial and it will help you to line up your circles. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create yet another layer here, and I'm going to call it Trace Layer. And in that layer, I'm going to do a file place and bring in that biohazard warning symbol from the desktop over here. There it is, and place. And of course, you can see it moving around there. I'm going to kind of nudge it here a little bit. I'm going to be moving it up, and kind of the center of the piece itself is not centered in the image. I want to put it like kind of like directly in the center of that circle in the middle of the biohazard warning symbol. Once I have it in the position where I want it, I'm going to use Alt and Shift and expand the image itself using my selection tool. I'm going to make it larger here so that I can get it to fit into the window. That's a little bit too big. Make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Now we're inside of the artboard itself. Now I can adjust the size of my artboard, of course, and the way that you do that is you go over here to the artboard tool shift, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to size my artboard so that it's exactly the size of the biohazard warning symbol document that I've brought in, and that will make things a little bit easier going forward. There we go. All right, I'm not exactly lined up with my crosshairs anymore, so I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so that we can see that. I'm going to use my arrow keys to kind of nudge things around here a little bit till I get kind of where I think center is. I've got to go up just one more. There we go. All right, so I'm going to bring the trace layer below my layer 1 because I'm going to be working in layer 1. I'm going to lock up my trace layer so that it doesn't get in the way anymore. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out again a little bit, and I'm going to use my ellipse tool. I currently have no fill and a stroke of black, and I believe I probably have, and I'm going to double check this, my window, and go to stroke and see what my stroke is set at. Yeah, my stroke is currently set at 1 point. That's fine. All I need to do is just keep track of what size of line that I'm going to be drawing. So on layer 1, ellipse tool, and by holding down shift, I can strain it to a circle. But like I said, if I start drawing, it's going to draw that circle off to the side. That's not what we want. We want to draw that circle from the center. So you can see how the crosshairs change when I'm holding down the Alt key on my keyboard. That allows me to draw that circle from the middle. I'm going to get it to about the size where I can see the sides of the circle are at about the same size as the sides of the underlying crescent. And then I'm going to nudge it down. Of course, I can always tweak it after the fact. But that looks pretty good. It's lining up pretty well with the underlying circle. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to do edit to that circle. With it still highlighted and selected, I want to go to edit copy and edit paste because I want to do a complete duplicate copy of that, and I'm going to use that one for the inside of the smaller circle. I can tweak the size of that as necessary when I get it into position. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller. It doesn't come down to the end here. So what I have to do is I have to make sure that I hold down. See, I've got the center of that circle lined up on that crosshair line. So I'm going to hold down both my Alt and my Shift key so that I can strain that circle so that it opens up. And I'm going to nudge it down with my arrow keys. There we go. And the important thing is to ensure that I've got that overlap at the top, as I pointed out in the video to you. Okay, so I've got both the outer, my selection tool back, I got both my outer and my inner circle. Now what I want to do is I want both of them. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click. Now I have both the inner and the outer circles selected, or I believe that I do. And just to double check and make sure that I do, I'm going to go around both of them by dragging the selection tool around both. Now I know that I have both of them because I can see the crosshair or the center line of the inner circle highlighted right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Object and Group. So what that's done is it's taken both the outer circle and the inner circle and created one object out of them. They are now one thing, and if I move them, which I can do that, I'll highlight it here for a second and nudge it over, and you can see that they move together. They're not separate anymore. So I'll get them lined back up where they belong, right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Shape Builder tool. Now the Shape Builder tool is positioned down from the top right about here. And what we're going to do with the Shape Builder tool, if you'll notice, see the arrow where my cursor is positioned right now has a little plus symbol. And what that's going to tell Illustrator to do is to combine these two shapes. That's not what I want to do. I want to subtract this shape from that shape. So in order to do that, I'm going to hold down my Alt key, and you'll notice that that plus sign now becomes a minus sign. And if I drag from the outside into the inside, you can see that that's kind of created this little checker pattern over the inner circle. If I release, you see that it has gotten rid of the overlap between the two circles, leaving behind the crescent that we wanted. Now what I need to do, of course, is to fill this with black. And I'm going to take and go to my fill and filler with black. And there we go. And that's what we needed to do. We needed to create one crescent, and now what we need to do is we need to do an edit and copy and edit and paste. And it's okay if it's on the same layer. Matter of fact, we want them all on the same layer at this point. Now using my arrow tools, I'm going to nudge this one down until I get it to line up with the bottom where the crescents are, and nudge that over like so. So it lines up on the outside edge of that crescent. And as I said, if you hold down your cursor just outside of the border of the bounding box, you'll see that bidirectional arrow appear. You can see it down in the lower right hand corner there. And now what I can do is by holding down my Alt key, I should be able to constrain that so that it's going to rotate about its center till I kind of get it to where I want it to be. A little bit further than where I wanted it to be. There we go. Nudge it over a little bit till it kind of lines up with the other one. Alright, so now I've got the other crescent. Now I'm going to do edit, copy, edit. I'm going to do paste. That creates that one. I'm going to rotate it until I get it to where I want it to be. And I'm going to position that one like so. Nudging it over a little bit till I get it to where I want it positioned. Rotating it back just a little bit because it's not lining up with where the crescents break here. And back a little bit. That looks pretty good. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around all three of the crescents and do Object Group. And that completes the actions for part 1 of assignment number 14. So I'm going to go up here to layer 1, and I'm going to label that crescents. I may not have done this in the PowerPoint presentation or the translation of the PowerPoint, but it's a very good idea to make sure that you label each of your layers as you go along so that you don't get them confused. Okay? Anyway, all for now. This is kind of my fly by the seat of my pants to see whether or not I can do in Camtasia what I'm instructing you guys to do in the translation of the PowerPoint, and we'll see how this goes. All right? All for now.